Okay, this is the onion wall theory, but the Deltarune Chapter 5 Weird Route theory about onionsans and their connection to the overall story of Deltarune. My name is BinRob, and my first Deltarune theory on YouTube. I'd like to reach a lot of people with it because I think it's relevant to a lot of the discussions going on starting Chapter 5. So, if you would like the video, if you can, that'd be great. Okay, onion wall theory mostly revolves around the idea of onionsans just being an important character because that's not very popularized, but other than the fact that they are kind of this side character that just like does a bunch of weird shit and then appears as like the one to tell us about the Song of the Sea. It's just a very interesting dynamic with this random side character, and I was really intrigued by that, especially coming with the Chapter 5 scene of the festival with the wait, or it's like the wait NPC, the wait don't NPC. Basically, it's close to being confirmed that the wait don't NPC killed Onion-san and made them into takoyaki, so I considered making this a takoyaki theory, but I chose the onion wall theory because I think, after analyzing it, it has closer ties to the undertale barrier and the parallels that Onion has with all the other characters in Deltarune. So, basically, the theory revolves around Onion-san being the key to figuring out why this barrier exists and what it does. So I'm not implying that there is a physical, like, magical barrier around Hometown, because then people would probably talk about it as like they did in Undertale, but rather there's like a social narrative barrier that allows people not be able to leave the town, which I think is very like emphasized in the Chapter 5 Weird Route, where the soul is the sole reason that people can break patterns, and the soul telling people what to do is the only way people can change. And I think Onion-san is a representation of how there are things that can still stray from us, like a set path, or at least the path can lead the soul in separate ways, like with the Weird Route, how it starts. That's not necessarily led on. That's not necessarily, nobody tells you to do that, basically. But Onion-san basically tells you to do the Chapter 5 Weird Route, because he tells you to look for the song in the lake. That's why he's important. Okay. I think Onion-san parallels characters like Noelle and Chris, because they both want to escape the barrier of the town, or at least Noelle does. Noelle wants to break out of being a Noelle, which is interesting, first of all, because Noelle knows that there is an archetype for a character that she can't break out of. Does she know that she's like a character? Like, does she know that everyone's a character? Because she kind of seems like she does. Anyway, basically, they have parallels between them. Onion-san was blocked by the plot in the form of the wait don't NPC. Maybe the barrier played a part in that in Deltarune. And in Undertale, the literal barrier and the aquarium's fullness, when Onion-san mentions that they can't move out of the waterfall because the aquarium that they wanted to go to was full, and all their friends like left them, basically. There's multiple narrative ways that Onion-san is barred from leaving their situation. But we see in Deltarune that Onion-san does leave the situation, and either dies or vanishes from the narrative. And then in Chapter 5, the spot where he can talk to Onion-san is wiped in place of a relevant story location for both the Weird Route and the like standard route, just because Susie and Noelle have their romantic moment in that area, and Chris and Noelle have their interesting moment in that area in the Weird Route. And I find it interesting that the wait don't NPC basically like gets rid of the ability to talk to Onion-san, because that means Onion-san is in a way relevant. Wait don't is basically confirmed to be from Undertale. Wait don't asks for G at the stand at the festival. Nobody ever talks about G because it's a currency from the underground monster civilization. Why would anyone be talking about that now? Wait don't is the only goner that doesn't have a counterpart in Undertale. I think that could have some correlation with Sans. I don't know. That's not what this theory is about. I think it's important to recognize Onion-san's interesting namelessness in Deltarune. In Undertale, they immediately mention that their name is Onion-san. There is no, like, doubt about that, but in Deltarune, nobody named Onion-san. In the files, their name is Onion-san, but they don't really remember their name. Sometimes they misremember their name and tell you it wrong, but then they come back and they're like, that's my name, right? But I think their not having a name or not remembering their name has significance in the form of goners. Goner kid talks about a world where you didn't exist, like, would probably be if you didn't have a name, but also, like, them being the opposite of what they do in Undertale, they're not stuck in the lake. So them escaping when they can, it's like not, it's kind of a weird opposite to Undertale, which is interesting because of the no name thing. It's like kind of them hiding from the narrative. They're not trying to fit into what they already were in other games, but they do fit, like personality-wise. That could mean that they're not trying to be put into the narrative, but it also could mean that they're not trying to be bound by the decisions of Chris, which is they clearly aren't. We can't change what onionsans does. I mean, that's kind of a big theme of the game. We definitely can't change what onionsans does, and we can't change onionsans being gone. We can't move the Wait Don't NPC to talk to onionsans. Like, does this mean that Chris is, like, important to them because Chris gives them a name? Does this mean that, like, that Onion-san was given the original name by Chris, and Onion-san from Undertale is Onion-san from Deltarune, and they've moved, like the Wait Don't NPC in Sans? I don't know. But that's pretty interesting that Onion-san, the one who tries to leave the lake, or tries to go towards the Song of the Sea, which we're basically trying to go towards in the weird route, and we reach this weird barrier in the form of the Chapter 7 B-side. I don't know. We find that where Onion-san presumably went, unless Onion-san got dragged to the bottom of the lake and murdered, that they went to this place that we went for the weird route. Maybe the Onion-san is the secret boss of Chapter 7 B-side. Goner-san. Okay, what the fuck am I talking about? Okay. Noelle kind of mentions very much mentions in the weird route that Chris is the one who can change, and that's because of the soul, obviously. And Noelle notices that Chris isn't Chris anymore, which is kind of like this form of escape from the town. And that leads Noelle to use Chris's soul to escape the town, or at least try to, through the lake, either by killing themselves, by drowning, or by, like, breaching this unpassable barrier in the form of Chapter 7 B-side insertion. Like, what? Okay, first of all, what is that? We don't know, so I'm not going to go over that yet. But basically, they find themselves on the same route as Onion. There is a direct parallel between the freakiest part of the game and the freakiest NPC, because Onion-san is weird. But basically, like, Onion does not have a human soul. How does Onion kind of will themselves to search for the Song of the Sea? It's because they're obstructed from the narrative after they, like, get dealt with. Like, either by death or by vanishing, like in the spot you talk to them vanishing, they're gone from the narrative because they went on that journey. That was their narrative, like, significance. It was to disappear. And that's, like, they kind of tried to pass something. They tried to find something, and then they couldn't get there. And that's why they're gone, because they went on a journey that was, like, destined for them. But us, with our soul, we can kind of go on that same journey, and we can, like, kind of past that checkpoint that Onion-san couldn't. But Onion-san's story of not being able to, like, pass the barrier is like a cautionary tale. You're going to get some type of punishment for searching for this thing that you shouldn't be searching for, because you're passing the barrier. It's like how Asriel, when he got Kara's soul, was confronted with mobs of angry humans because he was, like, crashing out. Us being, like, on the weird route and trying to pass this barrier, we're going someplace we shouldn't, going outside of our, like, containment. Like, the prophecy is all this one big contained story. Like, the soul, in the form of Kara's soul, was used to escape a barrier. All the people who tried to leave the barrier beforehand, they couldn't. Nobody could leave the underground. Onion-san couldn't leave the underground and go find whatever they wanted to find because they didn't have a soul with them. Like, literally, the soul definition in Undertale and Deltarune has this power, this, like, hidden power that you can't deny. But it also has this narrative context where being obstructed from the soul's view means that you're not relevant to the story anymore. If you're never seen again, you're not relevant. I mean, I guess Gaster is never seen again, but it's still pretty relevant. I mean, we talked to Gaster, so I don't know, maybe. But I think, like, Onion-san needing to leave is narratively necessary to push us in this direction. But it's also, like, Onion-san did something that wasn't fit for the narrative, because the Wait Don't NPC show up. What is that guy's deal? This is, like, basically just becoming a video about the Wait Don't NPC, but this, like, weird character with so many ties just to Undertale and none to Deltarune literally tells you about souls in the library. There's a book that the Wait Don't NPC reveals by choice to you about, and tells you to read the books, and it's about human souls. And then there's also a book about how to care for humans. This is why Chris is the human in the town. Chris is the one who has the soul, and the Wait Don't NPC is telling us to find out about the soul. And you know why that's relevant? Because the Wait Don't NPC doesn't fucking like Onion-san. The Wait Don't NPC wants us to do what Onion-san did, and is saying wait, don't, because they don't want us to do it the same way Onion-san did. Okay, I went a little bit off the rails there. But basically, Kara's soul is used as Noelle uses Chris's soul. Even if you tell Noelle to stop on the weird route in Chapter 5, it doesn't stop. Noelle is telling you to proceed at this point because they're using your soul. Because she's using your soul. Like, Onion's story is what would happen to Chris and Noelle if they did like the route that Onion went on, because they wouldn't have a soul. They would vanish. They wouldn't be perceived anymore in the narrative, outside of like this like weird hope they would return, like Des. Des is the only other person other than Azrael. Des and Azrael are the two people who have left the story somehow, and they do so in ways that are intentionally obstructed from the narrative. Azrael is in college. We don't see Azrael in college. We never call Azrael in college. Azrael could be the fucking knight. Des could be the knight. We make up things about these characters because they're obstructed from the narrative, because they're outside of the barrier. We make up things about Onionsans because they're either dead or outside the barrier. That's what Des is. That's what's going on with Des. I don't know, probably not with Azrael, because Toriel is talking about Azrael in this chapter. But, like, the soul defines what can leave within our perception, what matters to us, basically. If we try to follow in their footsteps and find her, we don't get anything. We just get, like, vague clues. Basically, Onion is a device to tell people that what we don't see is not a part of the story. Ignore the picture. But basically, we have to do all these like crazy fucked up things if we want to see that like part of the story. Like passing through that barrier is not going to happen unless the character like leaves this current perception. Like we're not going to see Onion-san again because they're either dead or otherwise obstructed. And or we see what's going on in the barrier. There's never going to be a character that leaves the barrier and then comes back. That's what Onion-san is there to show. And that's why the Wait Don't NPC is also there. Because the Wait Don't NPC is like this weird ominous figure. Like, it's telling us that it's like outside of our comprehension and we don't have the things to understand it yet. That's what it's telling us. Like, Asgore's inability to shatter the barrier on his own is like significant towards the Deltarune barrier as well. Because nobody can break through it on their own. They have to have the help of the narrative, which is carried by the player's will. It's more becoming like a literary analysis, but like, I don't know why I'm putting Onion on par with Des and Azrael, but he like vanished from the lake because he was looking for something he shouldn't have been. That's like basically what happened to Des. If Des is the unused code, then Des is so obscured from the actual story that we can only get like little tidbits of what might be Des through the code, something that we like shouldn't even be in. I think the next thing that I just want to talk about before I end the video is Onion-san is this like really bubbly, nice character in Undertale, but kind of like goes completely off the rails in Deltarune and like tries to do more in the plot than he should have. And that's important. Like Onion tries to leave and find the ocean. They do after the player helps break the barrier with Azrael. And then the one thing that really stood out to me. Wait Don't NPC has this weird speech pattern. You know who else has a weird speech pattern in Undertale, especially? Onion-san. Nobody talks about this. Why does Onion-san talk like that? Why does Onion-san talk in this like broken way? Like how we see all these NPCs turning into this like weird speech pattern, like Jockington and Wait Don't. And like why? Why do they do that? Nobody explained this. And then like I don't know. Why does Onion get lost? Because they were trying to break out of the story. Like they were trying to look for this Song of the Sea and then report back to Chris. But the Song of the Sea isn't something that's like, it's like not revealed to the player. It's not revealed to the player what it sounds like. I mean, maybe the Sound of the Sea is actually the soundtrack Barrier from Undertale and repitched into something else like it is in the song Amalgam, which is possible. But I don't know, we don't hear the Song of the Sea. We don't know that. We were relying on Onion-san to tell us what it was, and then Onion-san vanished. Onion-san is this like weird plot device, but Onion-san is used as a plot device in a way that we don't see in a lot of Deltarune characters. And then they're turned into fucking Takayaki. And we don't know what happened to them after that. Like, Onion-san is this weird parallel to Weirder Out Chris, Weirder Out Noelle, and even them as children. Like, Azrael, Des, Noelle, and Chris all wanted to cross the lake. Onion-san is capable of doing that. Onion-san is like this huge beast, as we see, because in Undertale they're sitting down while they're doing all their shit. But like there's a barrier of story relevancy that characters can cross. Onion-san crossed that barrier, but the way they crossed it led us down this route. Basically, I'm saying there's a barrier, and then Onion-san's fucking with the barrier made them disappear. And that might happen to other characters. And also, Wait Don't is from Undertale, and Sans is from Undertale because of the punch card picture saying don't forget. And Onion-san might also be from Undertale, because they get their name Onion from Sans. Onion-san.